Have you ever stood in front of your fridge or your freezer looking for something to eat? And not because you were hungry, but because you wanted something to help you feel better. Or you had every intention of going for a walk, and instead you just stayed on the couch, right? Or it's midnight and you told yourself you were going to go to bed earlier, but instead you're scrolling on your phone. So why'd you do it? Well, stay with me, because the answer isn't what you think. It's not about willpower. It's not about discipline. Okay? There's a skill, and there's actually brain imaging research behind it that can quiet down the part of your brain that gets triggered in real time before you eat the thing, skip the walk, or spiral at 3 a.m. It's called affect labeling, or in plain English, putting feelings into words. And today, I'm going to show you how it works so that you can stop reacting and start responding. Well, hi there, Amy here. Thank you so much for joining me today. So this is part 1 of a 3-part series I'm calling Name It to Navigate It. And it's about helping you implement the lifestyle changes that support your brain health. So if you're a longtime listener or viewer of this podcast, you know about the Restored Protocol and the 8 protective factors to build an Alzheimer's resistant brain, right? Like sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress management, etc. So if you're new here, you can download your copy of it at amylangcoaching.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can use the QR code on the screen. Okay, but today we're going to go underneath all of that, because here's the thing. You can know everything there is to know about brain health, right? What to do, and still not do it. And I want to spend some real quality time on why and help you bridge that gap between knowing and doing. So over these next 3 episodes, we're going to build one skill at a time. Today, it's just noticing and naming what you feel. Okay, that's what we're going to be focusing on this episode. Because again, brain health isn't only an information problem. So here's what I see all the time with the women I work with in my coaching program, Sharp for Life. Again, they already know what to do. And if you're like them, you know that sleep matters, that movement matters, that nutrition and hydration matter, right? Brushing and flossing your teeth, learning new things, social connection, and lowering chronic stress. And yet, while you know that sleep matters, you might still find yourself scrolling your phone at midnight. Or you know that leg strength matters, and yet you're still not strength training. Or you know that nutrition matters, but you still ate that whole bag of chips. Right? Does this sound familiar? Do you resemble the remark? Okay, so again, knowing isn't the problem, right? There's a gap between knowing and doing. And that gap, it's not a logic problem or character flaw. And it's not because you're lazy or undisciplined. It's something else. And I think a lot of us, myself included, have spent years trying to close that gap with more information, more research, more articles, another book. Which, look, I love research, obviously, right? That's so much of what this show is about, sharing what I've learned. But information, some key insight, isn't what's missing for most of us. Instead, it's actually an emotion that's gone unnamed that need some attention. And once you see that, a lot of the choices that used to look incongruent or irrational start making a lot of sense. So let me give you a couple of examples because I think this is where it'll really click for you. Okay, again, let's look at you planned on going for a walk after dinner. But when the time came, you skipped the walk. And you might have wound up telling yourself, I'm just lazy. But what's actually going on? I bet if I were there to explore it with you, we'd discover you're completely spent. As in, you've given your time and energy to everyone else all day, and there's almost nothing left in your tank. Or if we look at the evening snacking, right? You've probably got a voice in your head saying, I have no willpower. That's the story you're telling yourself. But underneath it, chances are you were feeling lonely or frustrated or bored and looking for something, right? Anything to give you a pick-me-up, to feel better. Or you stay up too late and you mutter under your breath, I have no discipline. Except that hour after everyone else has gone to bed might be the only part of your whole day that actually feels like me time. Right? So it's no wonder you don't want to give it up. So here's the thing, that an unnamed emotion, when you don't name it, your reaction, right, the behavior, what you can see yourself doing, can feel like a mystery. And when it feels like a mystery, you often draw conclusions that default to blaming yourself. You don't say, I wonder what I was feeling right before I did that. You go straight to, what's wrong with me, right? And what's wrong with me is not a useful question, because the premise is that there is something wrong with you. And your brain is like a search engine. It will go and try to find an answer and identify what is wrong with you. And then in the process, you end up feeling worse. So what can you do instead? Well, there's a thing in psychology called affect labeling. And in plain English, it's naming an emotion. Okay, starting a sentence with I feel and putting your feelings into words. Saying, I feel anxious. I feel frustrated. I feel disappointed about this situation. That's it. That's the whole skill. Sounds simple, right? But most people describe their feelings instead of naming them. For example, I feel like it's too much for me to handle. Or I feel like I can't do anything right. Or I feel like no one cares about me. Again, these are descriptions of a situation, right? This is a really important distinction. I feel like it's too much for me to handle. That's overwhelm. I feel like I can't do anything right is likely shame. And I feel like no one cares about me describes feeling lonely. And I want to be really clear about what to do. Okay, I don't want you to start asking, why am I like this? Okay, I'm going to provide the next steps so you don't go down this rabbit hole. But for now, I just want you to notice that there's been a shift in your body and ask, what am I feeling right now in this moment? Okay, name the feeling. Sad, angry, frustrated, bored, whatever comes to mind. Okay, now why does this matter? Well, here's where it gets interesting, because there's actual research on this, okay, including brain imaging studies. So back in 2007, researchers out of UCLA, Matthew Lieberman, ran a study that was published in the journal Psychological Science. And what he and his colleagues did was they showed people pictures of upset faces. Okay, scared, angry, that kind of thing. And in one version of the task, people picked the word that matched the emotion on the face. Scared, angry. Okay? And here's what happened in their brains when they did that. The amygdala, right? That's your brain's alarm system, the part that activates when something feels threatening. It actually calmed down when they named the emotion. And a part of the prefrontal cortex, the part involved in language and self-control, actually lit up more. Now, in the experiment, they also had a control group which picked a word that matched the face, but it was about naming the person's gender, not the emotion. So same face, same task structure, just man or woman instead of scared or angry. And that calming effect, it didn't happen. So this isn't labeling anything calms you down. It's something specific about naming what you feel, naming the emotion. So not just using language. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean one word can erase your anxiety, right? It doesn't mean your anger just disappears because you named it. What it means is naming the feeling may change how your brain is processing the experience. And calming down your amygdala, it gives you the opportunity to pause. So without this skill, the behavior pattern probably looks like this. Feeling, then reaction, right? Straight line, automatic, no stop in between. With this skill, the pattern becomes feeling, label, pause, choice, action. So let's take that evening snack example, right? The old pattern, feel uncomfortable, open the freezer, eat a pint of ice cream, feel guilty afterwards. New pattern, I feel lonely, pause. And you might still eat the ice cream, but now it's a choice before you take action, right? You're no longer on autopilot. Same thing with the walk. Old pattern, I can't deal with one more thing. Just skip it. New pattern, I feel overwhelmed. Pause. And then you get to ask, do I need a shorter walk today? Do I actually need to rest? So naming doesn't force a decision. What it does is help you make a conscious, intentional choice. And that's really the whole shift I want for you, right? Not perfect choices every time, just you actually get to be in the room when the choice gets made, instead of finding out about it after the fact, like where you find yourself asking what just happened, right? Okay, so now, if you're a little distracted, okay, I want you to come back and be fully present for this next part, because I know a lot of you are here because Alzheimer's has already touched your family. I get it, okay? My mom has Alzheimer's. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. And I've been watching this disease up close, right? The devastating loss of not just memory and independence, but identity too. So I understand the fear that you may be experiencing if you have brain fog, or when you walk into a room and you forget why, right? So here's what may be happening next that I want to address. You forget a word or you blank on a name and the story shows up instantly. I wonder if this is how it starts. And then what do? Right? You replay it. Maybe you test yourself. Maybe you're up at midnight, not scrolling your social media feed, but Googling symptoms. And every single little incident becomes evidence of something scary, right? Something sinister. I've heard it from so many of you, right? This exact thing. You forget where you put your phone or your keys and your heart drops. So if that's happening, I want you to try this instead. Notice the sensation in your body has shifted and name the feeling that goes with it. I feel afraid, or I feel scared. That's it. Just name the feeling. Okay? So of course, it doesn't answer the medical question, but it does one really important thing. It separates the feeling, I feel scared, from the conclusion. I wonder if this is how it starts. Because here's the reality. The fear is real, but the prediction is not a fact, and it shouldn't be treated as such. So again, if you're new here, when it comes to late onset Alzheimer's, genes are not destiny. Okay, lifestyle is actually the biggest determinant of the outcome. And in this way, it's like poker. It's not just about the hand you're dealt, it's how you play the game. So even if you're a carrier of the ApoE4 gene, or you have a family history of Alzheimer's, right? We know your risk is higher. You've been dealt a harder hand. I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But how you play your hand, right, still matters enormously. A pair of fours doesn't mean you've automatically lost. You can still win with a pair of fours. All right? So here's where I want to connect this to something a lot of you already know if you've read my book, Thoughts Are Habits Too. Okay, this book. Because everything we just walked through, it's actually step one of something bigger. So in my book, I teach something called the learning cycle. Okay, TLC for short. And the first step is becoming aware of your thoughts, especially the inner critic, the I should, the why can't I, right? All of that. And here's the thing. Most of the time, you don't catch the thought first. You maybe catch the feeling or your reaction, okay? Like what just happened. But when the feeling shows up, okay, and if you can notice and name it, that naming, okay, becomes the key to unlock the door to making a conscious, intentional choice. It's how you backtrack to the thought that actually is driving the whole thing. So step one, notice, right? Something shifted. A feeling showed up before you acted, okay? See if you can notice the effect in your body. And then step two, name the feeling. The best word you've got, okay? It doesn't have to be the exact right word. We're going to work on more precision in the next episode. And again, that name, that's the key to unlock the door to the thought underneath it. Okay, so noticing and naming the feeling, again, isn't the whole method. We need to talk about what to do with the thought once you become aware of it. Okay, and the full walkthrough, okay, the situation, the thought, interpretation, emotion, choice, action, that's TLC. And that's what we're building across this 3-part series. Okay, but again, by noticing and naming the feeling, your amygdala calms down and your stress response lessens. And the thinking part of your brain, okay, your prefrontal cortex, gets to come back online. So if you want the full TLC walkthrough, okay, the worksheet that takes you all the way from naming the feeling to what to do with the thought underneath it, okay, that I call that practicing TLC. You can get that worksheet at moxie-club.com/TLC. And if you want to order the book, Thoughts Are Habits Too, you can go to thoughtsarehabits2.com. And you can actually get a preview of the book before you buy it there too. Okay, again, it's thoughtsarehabits2.com. Either one is a great next step. Okay, so choose the one you're more likely to actually get and digest. Okay, so in part 2, we're going to talk about what to do when you struggle to name the feeling, because the only words that come up for you are happy, sad, or angry. So that would be like if you're trying to draw a rainbow or a sunset or landscape, and the only color crayons you had available were red, blue, and yellow. Okay, I want to give you the 64 color set. Okay, Crayola crayon set. All right, so I'm going to wrap things up today with a quote by Nathaniel Branden. The first step toward change is awareness. The second step is acceptance.